main beams and side beams and outer beams and everything of the carport ready. They're all bolted up, ready to go. Form workers off the slab. I've got to backfill a little bit here and at the very end so the grass will grow over the edge. And I think we're doing some other retaining stuff around this section. I just finished assembling the legs and one set of brackets, because apparently you do the other set of brackets into the concrete first and then you stand the legs with the main beam attached up into the bracket and attach. Just been reading. But it's now 5:30. Sun is about to disappear over the horizon just there. Doing this with the rattle gun, I'm sure has been loud throughout the neighbourhood all day. I did notice one of my neighbours come out and sort of look at what I was doing in the driveway. Just having to drive in so many tack screws just to get all this stuff ready to assemble. It's a nightmare. So I'll get on with the rest of it tomorrow. Vehicles up and out of the way. I've shoveled all the mud off the driveway that had washed out with all this rain, and got the first frame set out ready to be screwed together. This is the other box section for the back. They're the front and back, they're the sides. Look at him following me. Forget. So I've got the main frame, so the main beams attached to the legs. These ones are the sides and the ends. I've also got the outside brackets in place. The other one's under there, bucket on it so I don't trip on it. There's one just there and one under that bucket. Getting those precisely placed was the hardest part. I started with the two over on the footing because that's the side you see. So I got those two placed and then measured these ones out. All the straight measurements were fine, but the diagonals were out, and I had to basically move these ones forward the length of the bracket. And when we rechecked the diagonals, they were spot on. So they're now in. I hit a few hard spots in the older slab, but got them in. So they're all ready. Almost 6, just about to turn 6. And when I'd just gotten those brackets in, it was 4:30. And we didn't want to rush because we wouldn't be able to put the whole thing up. So I didn't want to stand up just the end frames and then just have those hanging there. We got them moved. Wife came out and gave me a hand. We'll get them up next weekend. Hopefully the weather's good for Easter. Monday, Year 10's just finished. 3 students on the lathe at the moment. One doing the rolling pin and He's getting a nice finish on here. He was using the skew and then went to one of the smaller gouges because he was able to get it to just skip along here really nice. And he is getting it really nice and smooth. You just got to do the whole thing. He's working on the rolling pin, if you can see that. Two doing mallets, one who glued his together and took it. Not quite finished, but he's the one who likes making them, and he's trying to develop the design as he's going. Another one working on there. I think he's going in with a bit too much pressure with it because he keeps knocking the job out of alignment on the lathe. Because I wanted them to start planning to make their own projects, the girl in the class decided she wanted to do a jewellery box. She was one I said she was going through the magazines last lesson. She actually worked on her design at home and decided that what she was looking at was way too big, made the design a little bit smaller, figured out what sort of angle she wanted, and she went through the storeroom and selected out some timber, and she's doing a contrast of Meranti and pine. And she started cutting out her pieces, and we set so that I'm not doing all the work for them, so that they can do miter joints. We set up just a jig on the disc sander so they can slowly sand off the miter. Today's photo catch-up day, so students were being called out of the class who hadn't had their photo done. I had mine done, staff, we did the faculty photo. Now I've got to go back and continue doing paperwork or timetable. I was doing timetable this morning. Anyway. Second last day of term, end of the day. Just had year 12, or half of year 12. Had year 11 earlier today. Year 11 coming along well. One actually got his joints assessment completed and to a competent standard, so I marked him for that task. Year 12 we're doing step formworks, which is that individual task, and there's the one that's completed. So the kids who are here who hadn't started that already were grabbing some measurements off his one. They had worked all the measurements out first on a diagram, and they were just confirming with that one because they saw that was marked off. That's fine. We got one day of school left, which is tomorrow. April Fools. I don't have this class tomorrow. I've got year 11 tomorrow, and I've got 12 timber tomorrow, but not this one. Last day of school. I wasn't sure how many year 11s I'd have here today, so instead of doing theory, which is what was in our timetable, we came in here and did prac, and I ended up having 6. I know there were some more students here, but they're also running the cross country at school today, and several of them do sports coaching, and they're usually involved in the organisation and the management of things like that, like they do with the swimming harbour. So that was the last class in here today. Again, they've done pretty well with clean-up and backup. They were doing well. Like I said, I've actually had one who completed all his joints yesterday, and there's a couple that are getting really close to getting their joints completed. Just sort of finessing it to make sure they get within that plus or minus 1 millimetre. So I've got year 12 later today, and we'll see how the rest of the day goes for the end of school. Easter tomorrow, Easter weekend coming up, and 2-week break. So school's over for the term. I spent a bit of time over here in the construction space. I've had my reciprocating saw in the car for most of the term, and managed to reclaim a whole stack of 1-inch square tube, which was the legs for all these tables. I've ended up chopping these, and we've got basically 2 by 3/4 inch tube as well. Not sure what we'll use it for, but it's going to take up a lot less space than a whole stack of tables stacked out up in the space out in the construction area. 21 tables I've cut up. I had some different size ones up here, some thinner stuff as well, because I've got some little, that looks like it's actually 1 inch, that looks like it's probably 1 1/4. I should check it. Hang on. Whole stack of 1 inch tube, whole stack of 1 1/4 inch tube. If I chop this stuff down, that's going to be down to roughly 1 by 2, which is most of that. There's some small stuff here, but using the reciprocating saw was a much better idea than trying to use a grinder. No sparks whatsoever, so it's a lot safer. I did go through 2 blades when they got caught at one point and jammed. The good thing was it would still work like this. First one kept working until I sort of snapped that little bit off. I bought a high quality blade compared to previous times where I bought blades for myself at home and just got the cheapest ones I could, and they, as soon as they get a bit of a bend, they snap. These ones maintain their integrity a bit. The other thing I chopped up, just because it needs to be gotten rid of, we're not going to really reuse it, was that one that was outside the workshop. So that's in those pieces. You can see a couple little bits lying over there. Just basically chopped up the tube. It'll fit into the trailer a lot easier. We can get more into the trailer to try and get rid of it. I still have a bit of steel up the back, some old gates, some other small tables that need to be chopped up, some other bits of gate over there. That one would be good because it's got some long pieces of 1 inch tube, but it's very thin walled. The table legs are a decent thickness in the wall. You're looking at probably 2 mil thick steel as it is. A little bit rusty, but most of it's painted, so clean the paint and the rust off and you've got some good steel. It is the end of the day, it is the end of the term. I'm just going to give this room a quick sweep to get rid of my metal dust and go back to the house. Stack just a little bit easier so I can still get through the walkway there. And even if we don't use this straight away, with it like that, and if I chop all just the corners off all this stuff, that'll all sit in that rack and be fine, because there's stuff in there that I've got to get rid of anyway.